Honorable members, I have to thank you for your tolerance, because we indicated it was suspension for 10 minutes, but it's taking us some hours. We had to discuss what is feasible in the circumstances of a recall and to try to detail out the process to deliberate on the items that I have admitted. The business committee earlier on had a meeting, and I'm sure you have a copy of their report. And so I'll give them an opportunity to present that report, and subject to your comments, leadership may draw your attention to what is feasible in the circumstances of today and tomorrow. But before I do that, that is called the business committee to present their report, I recognized Honorable Samson Ahi when I was about to depart. He was on his feet trying to catch my eye. You actually did catch my eye, but it was belated. I don't know whether it's still relevant or we should go on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was just going to commend you and then the parliamentary service for putting up this place for us to sit as parliament. But there is a problem. This particular light pointing at us is creating problem for those of us sitting here. The reflection is so high that if it is not readjusted, so it can affect our eyes. So I was drawing your attention to ask the administrators to redirect it, if not to the other side. To the other side. But the way it is directed to us, it is not good. Mr. Speaker, this is what I wanted to bring to your attention. This very one. I realize that it is intentional for them to do it, to create problem for the minority side. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, I realized it earlier on, but you are even better than me. You have only one directed at you. I have two directed at me, and there's one also directed at your colleagues. So you can see them very bright bulbs. And I did draw their attention to try to reduce the intensity. They tried twice, but they are still very bright, and they are very reflective of my specs here. So I sympathize with you, and I'll further draw their attention to try to at least dim it a bit, reduce the intensity so that it doesn't affect your sight. With this, I call on the chairman of the business committee. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to crave your indulgence to make a brief remark on the latest thing that has done to you that has changed your title. Mr. Speaker, I will make the statement later on, but because of what the one has said, that if anybody now calls your name without adding your title, it will be against the tradition. I think it's important for us to take note that the Speaker Mr. Speaker, the Speaker is now Dakagalina Speaker Bagbin. And the title was conferred on him after he has been enskined the chief of Dakarali, meaning Dakagalina. He is now a Dakagalina, and that confirmation of title is very important. He is the chief of a place which is highly recognized in the tradition of the Upper West region of the Wa traditional area, and it has redefined him throughout the country. And so I think that it's important for me to say that the Kagalana is no longer just the speaker, but he is the Kagalana Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you for this remark. We will make a definite statement later on to reflect everything that happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. At the appropriate time, we'll do the proper recognition. It's not a gazetted chief. So please, don't raise constitutional or legal issues on that. It's an honorary chieftaincy title. And you can see the type of hat on the head. That is very unique. And those of you who don't fall within the rule, when I look at you properly, if you don't come kneeling down, something could happen to you. Honorable Habib is aware of that. And so he has started behaving well. Yes, so let's listen to the chairman of the business committee present to us the proposed business statement for the 2 days, today and tomorrow. Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, if it pleases you, I shall proceed to present to the House the proposed business statement for the ensuing 2 days, ending Wednesday, the 4th of September, 2024. Mr. Speaker, the report of the proposed business statement has been circulated. All members have copies. I shall therefore rely on same and proceed to submit that we propose for the House's consideration the 250 million World Bank facility, which had earlier been considered by the House, and due to some matters that needed further clarification, same had not found favor. We also have another World Bank facility for Ghana Financial Stability Project that is also to be considered. Our information is that the Finance Committee, by a majority decision, has recommended for us to consider this facility. And this is a very important facility for the financial sector. Mr. Speaker, once the World Bank, at this critical stage of our country's development, has actually approved this for us, we only have to take advantage and then proceed to stabilize our financial markets. Mr. Speaker, we all know the challenges that we are facing, and this is very critical for us as a country. Then, Mr. Speaker, the 1D, 1F. Mr. Speaker, it's important to emphasize that the information from the Finance Committee is to the effect that all concerns that were expressed were taken on board. But of course, the details would be given when we give them the opportunity to present the various reports on each of the items. But it must be emphasized that the amount has significantly come down, and the issue of raw materials have been taken out. But that would also come to bear when they finally get the opportunity to take the matter on the floor. Mr. Speaker, we have some critical bills: the Social Protection Bill and the EPA bill. These are bills that have their own connections with the IMF facility that we've subscribed to. Mr. Speaker, there are some other papers to be laid that I believe when we get there, we shall do so. The leadership would certainly inform the House, engage the House prior to the laying of these instruments. So, Mr. Speaker, without more, and relying on the entirety of the document printed and circulated, I move the House to adopt this proposed program for the ensuing 2 days. Thank you, sir.
Yes, any comments? Yes, Honorable Ablakwa.
I'm most grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I commend the Honourable Majority Leader for the presentation of the business statement. Right Honourable Speaker, I rise to make this special appeal to you. I am cognizant of the fact that this is a special sitting and we have very limited time, only 2 days, today and tomorrow, as the business statement indicates. However, Mr. Speaker, your committee has indicated at page 1, item number 2A, that your good self may admit statements from ministers pursuant to Order 91-2. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to come under this window and make a special appeal to you to consider inviting particularly the ministers for environment and water resources on the current threat of Galamsey. The Ghana Water Limited has issued statements over the last few days that they are now finding it very difficult to process water. Indeed, in the central region, Mr. Speaker, they report that the Praia River is totally polluted and the turbidity levels have gone beyond 14,000 NTU, which is far, far higher than the acceptable levels of about 2,000 NTU. And so they are now rationing water. There are water shortages in many, many communities in the central region. And Mr. Speaker, beyond the central region, it is now affecting even the capital and other parts of our country. So we face an existential threat. The Ghana Water is saying that within the next 2-3 years, if the trend continues, they may have to import water. Mr. Speaker, that is how dire the situation is. So I want to appeal to your good self, Right Honourable Speaker, if you can direct that before we rise, these 2 days is good time to get the ministers responsible for the environment and for sanitation and water resources to appear before us and apprise us on what is being done to combat Galamsey, to stop the menace,
and to protect our water bodies. Because, Mr. Speaker, it does appear that apart from the Volta River, all our rivers are gone. All the rivers are gone due to Galamsey. And this is such an important matter. And if we have the opportunity to sit today and tomorrow, I believe sincerely, Mr. Speaker, that we shouldn't miss this opportunity to have the ministers appear before us and tell us what they are doing to save lives and to save our water bodies. I don't want to belabor the point, particularly in relation to the public health consequences. Already, public health practitioners are reporting that people are presenting with all kinds of medical conditions. They are finding lead, they are finding cyanide, mercury in people's food that they are eating, and it's having all kinds of health implications. Pregnant women are not having safe deliveries. Babies are being born with deformities. So, Mr. Speaker, there are really grave consequences, and we are really faced with an existential threat. It appears that the fight against Galamsey has been lost. Galamsey has defeated all of us, and we cannot throw our hands in despair. It will mean we are on a suicidal path, and we cannot afford to lose this battle and to commit collective suicide. So, Mr. Speaker, a special appeal to you to get the ministers responsible to appear before us and tell this House what they are doing to combat the menace. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Haruna.
Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity. Understandably, as I heard you and the majority and minority leader, this call is pursuant to the Constitution of Article 1123, an extraordinary sitting of Parliament should just be observed as such, an extraordinary sitting. And Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the majority leader that we are not in ordinary times. We are all preparing for elections. Members of Parliament are in their constituencies attempting to secure and safeguard their return back to this august House. Therefore, when you call us for extraordinary sitting, let it be an extraordinary sitting. I've seen him make reference to bills. Bills, what's the agency of those bills? Whether it's social protection or it's environmental protection. But Mr. Speaker, I have one major issue. The Electoral Commission of Ghana and the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. There's been happenings in my Tamale South constituency of an easy transfer of voters from Tamale South to Pusiga. I pray that is not on a wide scale or large scale as will affect many other constituencies. But Mr. Speaker, as we are speaking, maybe the committee responsible for the Electoral Commission or your good self may want to invite her. Mr. Speaker, the Electoral Commission has 75,000 biometric devices which will be used for purpose of conducting the presidential and parliamentary elections on December 7th. Mr. Speaker, those biometric devices, we have to subject it to some technical audit. One, to know the state of their batteries. Two, the state of their adapters. Three, the state of their readiness for elections on 7th December. And we will require the chairperson of the Electoral Commission to come and notify this House how ready the biometric devices are, how ready are their batteries together with their adapters. My information is that they will need to recheck all the batteries because you don't want a situation where on election day, 7th December, we are told that you should transit to manual system. We want the system to work. The functionality, the efficacy of its batteries are important. I understand that they will need money to acquire more than 5,000. I mean, you cannot have devices of 75,000, and when you are acquiring batteries, you are talking of 5,000. It should be 25,000, or even half of it. So, Mr. Speaker, the committee responsible for the Electoral Commission will have to engage her, and we know what are the financial gaps of the commission. because we may not have opportunity again. So that, Mr. Speaker, your good self, subsequent to the lecture you held with your brilliant resource person on the future of our elections, we will know that the Electoral Commission of Ghana is ready and prepared for the December 7th election. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, transfer of votes, absenteeism, even special voting, we need to know how many security agencies have registered to vote where and when. We need to know as a parliament, so that no security agents take part in the special voting, and on election day, some of them may attempt to want to vote at the designated areas. This House will demand that the Electoral Commission come with the full list of persons who have so applied to be treated for purposes of our special delegate, and that shared with us for us to know where they will be voting and where they will be posted for. As elections, as I said, Mr. Speaker, every aspect of this election is governed by law, CI 127, which affects transfer of vote, absentee voting, special voting. We want the Commission to simply abide and respect the provisions of the law. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister for Sanitation and Water.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue raised by Honorable Ablakwa is of public concern. The government, as you are aware, is not sleeping. We are working hard to ensure that this become a thing of the past. We are collaborating with the security forces to ensure that they intensify their work. Mr. Speaker, as he said, I'll put out the details and come back to the House and tell the House exactly what we are doing. Thank you very much.
Honorable Dafiamapo.
Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to comment on the business statement for today and tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, two major statements were made by government last week. One, in respect of the fact that as a nation, we are unable to export grains, however minimal, and that in order to combat the exportation of grains across our borders, military men will have to be deployed. And Mr. Speaker, it's mind-boggling that not too long ago, even ECOWAS were informed in this House that even ECOWAS released some monies to assist us to fight food insecurity. And so to be told out of the blue that we are in crisis and that our grains that we are producing are insufficient to meet our local demands is troubling. Mr. Speaker, second, I therefore want to urge or pray you to invite the Minister responsible for Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs to come and brief the House regarding the circumstances that this nation can no longer export grains, and two, the circumstances regarding the deployment of military men across our borders, when indeed we have policemen who can simply do this work, or with assistance with the immigration or custom officers. Mr. Speaker, this can be handled. Mr. Speaker, again, we were told by the Minister responsible for Finance that some 900,000 farmers in this country lost their expected yields from crop and farming activities, and so they will have to be given some monies. Mr. Speaker, we don't know who conducted the census with respect of the farmers, the acreage of the farms of these respective farmers, the nature of the crops involved, and the expected yield and all that. So as a house, we need to be briefed. And who these farmers are, these 900,000 farmers for which about 700 million Ghana cedis has been released for purposes of being paid. Mr. Speaker, we have to be informed. The minister should give the breakdown, the details, the further and better particulars of this particular policy that government has suddenly announced. Mr. Speaker, finally, the Electoral Commission has released information regarding nominations for parliamentary and presidential elections. Mr. Speaker, the errors contained on the parliamentary nomination forms, I'm not a presidential candidate, so Mr. Speaker, I don't know about that, but the errors, the clerical errors contained on the forms, Mr. Speaker, the Electoral Commission must take urgent steps to correct them. Otherwise, if colleague contestants sign off with those declarations, they'll be digging their own graves. For instance, paragraph 11 under part 4 of the parliamentary nomination forms, it is stated that I declare that I am disqualified as a registered voter under all related laws in this country. Mr. Speaker, such a declaration makes you ineligible to contest or to participate in the parliamentary election. So the Electoral Commission must be called upon to make this clerical, to correct or make amendments to these errors contained on the form, for a new form to be released for members and those who are contesting in the elections to be able to fill them out, complete them properly, and submit them. Mr. Speaker, finally, we have been called upon to, for instance, today, consider as many as 9 bills, Mr. Speaker, as part of the consideration. I think that this being an extraordinary meeting, we ought to limit the business to bills that are of some urgent nature so that we can deal with them expressly. Mr. Speaker, this heavy load, as if we are in normal times, is inappropriate. If there are 2 bills that we can deal with today and tomorrow, that is what should constitute the business of the House. And not the entire bills, or some number of bills for today and tomorrow, and yet we end up not dealing with them at all. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Let me listen to the Honorable Lady.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr.
Sorry, I was looking at Honorable Ladi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've risen in respect of Mr. Speaker, I've risen in respect of voter transfers from illegal voter transfers from the Tamale South constituency and Sanarugu to my constituency, Pusiga. Mr. Speaker, I have followed, we have issued some press conferences, we have done some background work, and we have realized that there is more than people think is happening. When we heard the information at first, it was about 26 people, Mr. Speaker. When we went to the ground, straightforward, we had about 32 people, Mr. Speaker, and there are thousands that are being reported at other places. We haven't heard much, and we would be grateful. We would be grateful, as has been requested, if the committee in charge takes up the matter, tries to find out so that we would know what is really happening, because this isn't just a mistake. If you say it's a mistake, while investigations are going on, according to them, when I read on social media, and also the supposed Alasan who was picked in Tamale,
still being under police investigation. Mr. Speaker, we cannot just sit and accept it as a mistake by the Electoral Commission. So I would also wish to add my voice to the fact that the Electoral Commission should come out or come up to Parliament and tell us what is really happening. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable Adjoasafo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to comment on the business statement ably presented by the majority leader, except to say, Mr. Speaker, that I'm a bit surprised at the issues that are being raised by members on the other side. Mr. Speaker, I strongly believe that there are urgent matters that ought to be presented to you, or your attention ought to be drawn to it. But this is a special recall for a purpose. And the majority leader did his job as the majority leader and leader of government business to tell us what he has as the program outline for this particular sitting. So, Mr. Speaker, it is not an ordinary sitting or a usual sitting where members can bring in matters that are outside the scope of what is being presented. We are on recess, and Parliament has been recalled, and the majority leader and the leader of government business is telling us why we are here today and tomorrow. What I want to beg of my colleagues on the other side is, if we stick to the schedule, if we stick to the business statement that has been presented, Honorable Defiamekwa, when you are ending your statement, you made a very good point that buttresses my point. You said there are so many bills that are outlined, and for 2 days we will not be able to go through the consideration stages and the various stages of passing a bill. And so you would advise that indeed we minimize it within the time restraint that we have, the 2 days window that we have. So if you're saying that, Mr. Speaker, and we are on the other side again requesting that ministers coming and brief us on issues and matters, I am not saying issues and matters in your constituency or that are of national concern is not important in Parliament. But this particular recall is for a purpose. So if we restrict ourselves and our comments to the business statement that has been ably presented by the majority leader, I'm sure we'll make progress. And if there's enough time, Mr. Speaker, we'll consider bringing in the minister. But if we spend our time debating on urgent matters in our various constituencies, we all have urgent matters in our constituencies, Mr. Speaker, but we're here for a purpose, and the majority leader has given us why we're here. Let's stick to it. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
I've sent you WhatsApp on it, the items that they asked, because I understand cybersecurity, you okayed it.
Honorable Montaka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. I want to remind my colleague, Honorable Adjoasafo, to look at the business statement submitted by the majority leader himself. It is the one that has provided that window opportunity for us to be making the statement that we are making. If you look at item 2, if the majority leader wanted us to zero on only the activities that were called for, that should have been the only thing here. But he himself made a window opportunity for government ministers to be allowed, if necessary, to make government statement and policy statement. And even members could also make statements. So that's the advantage all of us are taking. Mr. Speaker, this House passed the Electronic Transfer Levy Act in 2022. To be precise, Act 1075. And Mr. Speaker, in that act, this House chose to exempt some categories of individuals from the E-levy. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, from the beginning of this year, the Ghana Revenue Authority has blatantly refused to comply with the act and are charging, for example, the daily 100 cedis exemption for people who make transfer worth only 100 cedis not to be charged E-levy is being charged. And Mr. Speaker, merchant accounts that are meant for businesses that were boldly exempted by this House, Mr. Speaker, are being charged. And Mr. Speaker, it is eating deep into the profits of a lot of business people. And it has been a very serious concern. In our last meeting before we went on recess, I tried to draw the attention of our colleagues on Finance Committee to draw the attention of the Ghana Revenue Authority to stop the illegality. But Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, even the Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, Honorable Abuna, when I spoke to her, she said they are not aware that Ghana Revenue is charging innocent Ghanaians these taxes that they've been exempted from. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a very serious matter that we need to get the Minister of Finance, because I see that most of the businesses that we are carrying today are finance related. To be able to, and I'm sure the Ghana Revenue Authority officers are also in the House because of these financial issues that we are taking today and tomorrow. We want them to know that the act was passed deliberately and they cannot choose to be implementing a different act other than the one that was passed by this act. Because, Mr. Speaker, as we go around campaigning, almost everybody is complaining about the charges that the Ghana Revenue is imposing on innocent business people and individuals against the act as passed by Parliament. And I thought that we need to draw the attention of the majority leader, and probably if the Finance Minister could take the opportunity to address this issue. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Samson Ahe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, as a country, we are having water crisis, as stated by Honorable Okujeto. And as Parliament, we should show concern. We have water crisis at hand. Ghana Water Company has reported that raw water which is available to be treated is only 40%. Only 40% available raw water. We all know the importance of water. And, Mr. Speaker, this call for urgent attention by the government and, for that matter, the ministry. So, luckily, the minister is here. I want to add my voice to the call by Honorable Okujeto that by tomorrow, the minister should appear before Parliament to brief us what they are doing to address these serious problems. We all know now there is water shortages all over in Ghana, particularly in Kumasi, particularly in Menchia, where the running mate of MPP is coming from. Today, your people don't have water to drink. Your people don't have water to drink. There's water shortages in Kumasi, in Central region, in Western region, all over, in Tamale too. So, Mr. Speaker, I think this is an urgent issue that we should not brush aside. We should take, all of us should be concerned, and then appropriate steps should be taken to address it. Otherwise, tomorrow we will get water to bath and come and sit here. We all know the importance of water, and for that matter, we should support the minister to ensure that this problem is resolved. Apart from the fact that we were told by the government that they have banned Galamsey activities have been banned, look at the consequences of Galamsey in Ghana. The consequences of Galamsey on livelihood in this country. Now we can't even get raw water to treat. Where is this government taking the country to? So, Mr. Speaker, this is an urgent matter. I thank God that you have been a minister for water resources, Western housing before, and now you understand it better than what we do. And so you take the necessary steps so that the minister appear before us and then tell us what the ministry is doing to address these serious concerns that as a country we are facing. I want to thank you for the opportunity.
Well, Minister, you've already spoken. Minister, you've already spoken on this matter, so let me allow the is that Minister for Defense?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, since when did you arrive in Ghana?
Mr. Speaker, as Minister for Defense, I have not traveled out of Ghana.
So where have you been hiding?
I have not informed.
Are you been hiding in Bimbala or where?
Mr. Speaker, I have been doing my job as Minister for Defense. If you are not hearing from me, it means the country is very safe. That's why you are not hearing from me. The moment I start talking, it means that there's a problem. So if you don't hear from me, then everything is under control, Mr. Speaker.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, 100%. But Mr. Speaker, I want to commend members who are bringing the issue of problems of water and the disturbances that we have within our water bodies across the country, particularly the southern half of Ghana. But I want this House to take decisions that will be in the interest of this nation. Mr. Speaker, it's an urgent matter, and I think that you should lead it personally to ensure that anybody, whether you are a religious person, you are a traditional person, you are a politician, you are a flag bearer or an MP who politicizes Galamsey operations in this country, this House must take action on that person. Why are you making noise? Mr. Speaker, this House should take drastic measures against any individual who politicizes Galamsey matters, who is promising the youth of Ghana that if you vote for me, I would allow you to do Galamsey. Why are you making noise? Why are you making noise? I want this House to take a partisan posture against any individual. In fact, we should invite any individual to this House. We should invite any individual we have on video in this House who is promising the people of Ghana, especially the young people of Ghana, that if you vote for me, I would allow you to do Galamsey. Any politician who is inciting the young people of Ghana, I'll take you out of prison if you vote for me. Mr. Speaker, that is one sure way of ensuring that whichever government is in power can fight and make sure that this canker is taken out of our body politics. We have the power to protect Ghana, and we have the power to protect our people, to protect the unborn ones. There are some things we can do politics with, but Galamsey should not be one of them. So, Mr. Speaker, I want all the people, I will provide evidence, videos of all the people, and we should invite them tomorrow to this House and make them answer publicly. Whether they are NDC, they are MPP, they are CPP, I don't care. But I will do that. And any one of you who has a video or evidence that somebody is doing that, bring it to the Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that is the urgent matter I think we should focus. And we should, as a country, fight against. We can do our individual politics. I don't mind. But if our water bodies are at stake, And we, who are looking for political power, whether on which political party, I don't mind, I don't care, goes out there to let the young people of Ghana know that if I win, I will allow you to do Galamsey. The people of Ghana through this house should punish that person. So, Mr. Speaker, I want your help to sanitize the situation. I want you to also allow this house to sanitize the situation on political figures who are going around inciting the people of Ghana and promising them that they will allow them to do Galamsey. Why are you shouting, my brother? Oh, about 20 of you on your feet shouting.
Members, please, let's have some order. Honorable Minister for Defense.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for protecting me.
Two issues.
For protecting me from them. They are shouting.
Please.
I don't understand why.
Honorable Minister, may you resume your seat. Please, honorable members, I can assure you that I will preside here till midnight. But the work we have cut out for ourselves, whatever we do, we'll do it today. We only have today and tomorrow, no extension. So if you want to continue talking, I'll allow you, but we'll sit here and we'll finish the business before we go. Honorable Minister for Defense, when you said I was not hearing from you because the country is safe. Now I've heard from you, and what I heard showed that the country is not safe. You know, I have the power to protect all of you. If I have to implement the request you are making, I'm not sure you will survive. All of you will survive. So I don't also want all of you to die. So please, let's move away from that one, because it's very difficult to determine what a political statement is when you are talking about Galamsey, and what a political statement is not when you are talking about Galamsey. And as to videos and listen about Galamsey, the later we talk about it, the better. So let's move on. I gave an indication from the very beginning as to the businesses I've admitted. But the committee had met before my statement, and they had proposed that we do this business. We also took a suspension, and on resumption, I drew your attention to the fact that we had to look at some of the issues. And so please, what is on the business statement report is not what is going to be the business of the House for the 2 days. The clear indication was given by me as to the type of businesses I have admitted for this recall meeting of the House. And so we'll go on that. But I gave the opportunity because there was some variation because leaders drew my attention during the 10 minutes suspension as to the position of the caucuses on some of the items that I have admitted. And therefore, there was a plea, if in the absence of one of the items not being taken and there was space, we could present some business. And those businesses were all dealing with laying instruments. That is what I'm aware of. Laying some instruments and referring them to committees to handle during the recess. That's what I'm aware of. So we're not allowing any new businesses because we'll be setting a very bad precedent, as I stated in my early morning statement. It's very clear that we have to really interpret and implement or apply Article 112(3) cautiously. Please. So let's move on to do the business that we have earlier on agreed to do. And if there's space, there are some critical instruments that our attention was drawn to. But clearly, it's not even all what are admitted that are likely to be taken by the House. Yes, let me be fair to one of you has been standing. Are you? Well, since you are struggling over it, your leader is up, so I'll give it to your leader, minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue raised by the Minister for Defense is a serious matter. Mr. Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, the issue that was raised by the Minister for Defense is indeed a serious matter and cannot be allowed to slip without a comment. Mr. Speaker, this is particularly so because today the topical issue of the country relates to how our water bodies have been destroyed, and to the extent that we are threatened in a way that if care is not taken, we will not be able to have water. Mr. Speaker, this is as a result of Galamsey. And he is the Minister for Defense. The President of State is President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So if the President has failed, he should admit so. And if he has failed as a Minister for Defense in tackling Galamsey, he should admit so. It is wrong for him to cast insinuations and aspersions and creating impressions that somebody is making political statement. The executive power of state is with the President. And you are the Minister for Defense. If you can tell us that you cannot deploy the military to stop Galamsey, but you can deploy the military to stop the exportation of maize, and so we should clap for you. Mr. Speaker, the issues we are talking about, they are serious issues. Our livelihood is threatened. Our livelihood is threatened. And we cannot allow this to pass just like that. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I recognize that this is an emergency session. I recognize that we should only work with the motions that you have admitted. But, Mr. Speaker, when we come back in October, this matter, the way you have allowed Galamsey to destroy our livelihood, Mr. Speaker, we'll revisit it. We will revisit that matter. And as a country, Mr. Speaker, and as a House, we should find a way to address the concerns and apportion blames. If you have the power of the state and you have failed, say so. Don't put it on the NDC. We've done nothing wrong. It's you who have failed. Mr. Speaker, that is the point I want to make it forcefully. That at the right time, we'll bring a motion to debate these issues because, Mr. Speaker, it's indeed a serious matter and we have to address it. Thank you.
Yes, Majority Chief Whip.
Speaker, let me thank you for recognizing me. And I thought that this matter should be allowed to slip without commentaries. And Speaker, in your wisdom, you have given some direction. I mean, we sat here and tolerated all manner of commentaries. We heard my colleague, Honorable Samson Ahi, saying that even the lighting has been polarized to the extent that the lighting fixing has been directed such a way that it is going against them. Nobody said anything about that. Nobody said anything about that. And for the records, Honorable Nitiwo, the defense minister, when he spoke, he mentioned no name. And this, yes, no party names. And it reminds me of a popular saying by Chinua Achebe that the majority leader often quotes. When dry bones are mentioned, old women get worried. Old women get worried. To paraphrase, Speaker.
Honorable Member.
Speaker.
Honorable Majority Chief Whip. Are you sure he said old women. What about the old men? You have to be gender compliant.
Speaker, the matter at stake, yes, is the aged who get worried. Yes. Speaker, our colleagues should just sit down and listen. Sit down and listen. And I'm very happy when the minority leader challenged us that we will debate this matter and the culprit will be mentioned. In fact, we are ready to debate now. If we are to look and investigate both sides of the house, you have had the opportunity to rule this country before. I can tell you, you polluted the water more than us. You polluted the water more than us. So let's get matters straight. Speaker, we have business, critical business to prosecute. We have critical businesses to prosecute. And Speaker, you directed in that direction. I think we should stick to it and deal with the businesses at stake. These matters of picking and choosing and then playing to the gallery would not please anybody. Minority leader, I think you got it wrong. But we will be happy, I will be happy to debate you on both sides, the MPP administration and the NDC administration. I will be happy to debate you who has polluted our water bodies and our environment more than the other. Speaker, so we don't need to belabor the point. Let's proceed and consider the business's schedule so that we can make progress.
Honorable members, please, honorable members, could we accept what has gone on so far and move on to other businesses? We have some work to do. Please, I know we are in the campaign mood, and these political statements, if I continue to admit them, I don't see when we will end. Please, let's leave it as it is and move on. Honorable members, one of the critical things that we have commissioned a group to do is the assessment of the 8th Parliament, the performance of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic. Honorable members, as you know, the 4th Republic has been one of the longest periods when our democracy has been uninterrupted. Over the years, the issue of how the Parliament of Ghana has performed its core constitutional functions of lawmaking, representation, and oversight has been one of intense public debate and discussion. There have been varied views about the performance of the institution during the different legislative mandates under the 4th Republic. It is important to note that most of these have been individual opinions that are not grounded in any empirical evidence. Where efforts have been made to assess the performance of Parliament, those efforts have not been inclusive and participatory, and are focused on some aspects of the functions of the institution. So as a matter of fact, over the years, no significant effort has been made to undertake a comprehensive assessment of the performance of Parliament of Ghana across its 3 core functions and within a specific legislative period. So as a result of that, we decided to commission a study into this. I'm drawing your attention at this time because all what we are saying today will be part of the assessment. We need it for the sake of posterity. And I want to call all of you to be part of the story of this assessment. We want to properly inform our citizens as to what has happened in this rather unique parliament, which for the first time Ghana is experiencing, and that is a hung parliament. And so I've called on the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, ACEPA, to partner Parliament to undertake an assessment of this 8th Parliament of the Fourth Republic. Because of what I've said, they will be getting in touch with you, members of Parliament, and you have to cooperate and assist them to do the assessment. They have prepared questionnaire which they will be administering, and please, I urge all of you to spare a few minutes of your time to assist them to do a good job. And this assessment is going to cover from 7th January 2021 to 6th January 2025. I hope and pray that your cooperation will be forthcoming. With this, I urge you to let us adopt, in the meantime, my earlier statement, attention to. If there is a need for us to take any of those urgent issues today or tomorrow, we will do so. But we will do that not leaving it to tomorrow. We have to start and complete that agenda or item. So it's only that I'll permit. If there's something for you to start and for us to adjourn or postpone, that will not be admitted. So I'll allow the chairman of the business committee to say a few words, and then we can move on to the main item of today, which has been agreed upon by the leaders. That one, we have to finish it today. Then tomorrow, we can do the others. So, Chairman of Business Committee, you may now respond to some of the concerns raised.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues in making their contributions raise a number of issues. I'll start with the issue regarding the transfer of votes raised by the Honorable Member for Tamale South and the Honorable Member for Pusiga. I would strongly suggest that they avail themselves to CI 91, Regulation 2C and D, and 24 2F and 251. In the enactment of the regulation for this election, sufficient provisions were made to address some of the concerns that you've raised. So I believe that if you explore this, it's not too late. If you explore this, you get a result. Because if somebody does not hail from Pusiga and is ordinarily not a resident in there and has his or her name in the register in Pusiga, and you know that the person is from Tamale South, obviously you have all your concerns addressed in this provision. So that's my strongest suggestion to you. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of Ghana water problem in Central Region, I am saddened by what is happening. And I will refer colleagues to go to the Hansard of 2018 when we're approving the Tamale water. And Mr. Speaker, I raised this matter. I chaired the Ghana Water company, and I had the privilege of visiting some of these intake centers. It is very sad. And as a country, we have to know when to do partisan politics and when to act in the national interest. This Galamsey issue, I'm happy that today we are bringing it up again on the floor. I don't want us to pursue it in the partisan light, but it's a major matter. Ghana Water, somebody is talking about 3 years. It may not even up to 3 years. Would we continue to play politics with national issues? When the effect of Galamsey is having its toll, it will not identify who is an NDC or MPP. So I would want to urge all of us to pursue this matter and not make those civil society organizations helpless. It's a serious matter, Mr. Speaker. It is a serious matter. And we know desalination is very expensive. Are we now going to process seawater to drink? It will cost the nation. The tertiary desalination alone, we know when I was a chair, I know its effect on the books of Ghana Water. And it's the same government. Ghana Water is unable to pay for the desalination because it was the state that guaranteed the facility. Every now and then, the company will go to the Ministry of Finance. Dr. Forson is here. He knows what it is. And I know how my government pays. I remember again in 2015, when Honorable Setekwe appeared before the Finance Committee. I was a member. When he was talking about the challenges in the cocoa sector, he talked about Galamsey as one of the contributing factors. That people were felling their cocoa trees, cutting down their cocoa trees, and using that for Galamsey. My own ancestral village in Asinfosu, my family members came to me to buy them machines. These cocoas that my ancestors had many years, that we use proceeds to renovate family home. They said everything was going because of Galamsey. This was 2013, 2014. But we appear as politicians that when it's a national issue, because of where the public opinion will swing, we pretend we don't know. We don't want to tackle it. So let us get more serious as a political class and ensure our relevance, because it's a serious matter. And I'm happy Honorable Ablakwa made a call on the minister to at least brief us. I would encourage the Honorable Minister to find time to come and brief us on steps being taken as quickly as possible. Well, I don't know her plans, but if she comes, I think that as a house, we should all take it up, because whatever it is, it will be a cost on the national purse. Mr. Speaker, the dry spell is really affecting the northern part of the country, the savannah regions of the country, the middle belt of the country. I've sat in important meetings, and Mr. Speaker, the pictures and the videos I saw are very devastating. People are not getting food. If you go to our markets, the food that we expect to have on our markets, Mr. Speaker, they are not there. So the government intervention is aimed at helping the vulnerable. So it's a reason why there's a ban. There's a ban on exports of the limited grains we have. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe that the Minister of Agric will at the appropriate time appear before us and then update the House. That is very important. It's very, very important. I'm sure he will do that and run us through all that government is doing. But seriously speaking, government is determined to help the many poor farmers. And in fact, in partnership with our donor community, certain seedlings, seeds are going to be made available for the new planting season. I mean, the good news is that we are seeing the rains. And this dry spell also affected the cocoa sector. It's not only the grain farmers who were affected. Ghana Cocoa Board has been heavily affected. has been heavily affected because those, the flowering at the time the cocoa flowered, the fruit could not mature. And we all know, I'm not an expert in the sector. I don't want to dare Honorable Eric Opoku into a debate. I can't stand his debate because he can make an instantaneous research and come and tackle me with his uppercut. I don't want to go there. But as a layman, I know that the flowering needed water to mature. You know, there was no room for pollination. I have an agric expert here. You know, he's assisting me. So there wasn't sufficient pollination, and all of them fell off under the circumstances. The Speaker, next time my dad did agric, I will move into agric before going to law when I get the next opportunity, because I realize that it's very important. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Muntaka, also, you know, you do very well. You didn't say that for the record. So you are an affected person. So I'm sure that if you put together a petition to the GRA, they should be able to address this for you. I will volunteer to follow up for you so that we'll get resolved. Mr. Speaker, without more, I would want to thank colleagues for expressing views on this proposed business statement and assure them that there will be follow-ups on critical matters raised by them. Mr. Speaker, I thank you so much indeed. Thank you.
Honorable members, many of the issues you raised, if we were all focused, they wouldn't have arisen. But because we are working in silos and not listening to each other, we are facing this crisis. We had a program called Planting for Food and Jobs. All of a sudden, we are having challenges with food security. But this same house used to tout the success of the program. What are we saying today? Please, spare me that trouble. Honorable members, I could see some issues concerning the electoral process. And we initiated efforts here together. And as Speaker, I decided to lead. As a result of that, we even got the public involved, and we initiated the Democracy Cup. We're all at the Accra Sports Stadium. We saw what happened. The team of all what we're doing was working together, building trust for a free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections, the role of stakeholders. Many of you are not showing any interest. Over the weekend, I had to lead a team to Tamale, and the lectures there were very useful. How many of you attended? Leadership never showed up, even though invited. These things you are saying were all mentioned there. There was time for the public to ask questions. They asked these questions concerning your constituencies. Your constituents were there asking these questions of the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission was represented at the highest level. And so if you decide to work in silos and not listen to each other, we always have these problems. We are not talking about people coming to play politics or whatever. No. We talk about taking action. Well, they say I'm old, so you are young. I'm only 60-something years old. And I'm sure many of you will go before I go because I'm getting to 100. That's where I'll get to before I go, 100. Some of you are of little faith. And I'm sure by 50-something you'll be going. I won't go. So I love Ghana. I want to see Ghana survive. But we cannot continue this way and expect that things will get any better. Let's continue to work together. If we don't build the trust, nothing will happen in this country. Nothing. Any word come from any of you is taken on the basis of suspicion. So how are you going to work together to achieve what you're talking about? So please, as they say, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Let's work together. You are the leaders, and every day people are listening to you. They are watching you. They want to see you talk about Ghana. The way forward, not parties. Who are those participating in the Galamsey? If we take census, some of you will be there. And the people you are talking to are aware. It's not that they are not aware. They are aware that some of you are participating in it. So please, first, desist from doing it yourself. Don't go to them for the money for your campaigns. Don't go to solicit their votes. Let them see you work. Truly, it's a disgrace that we've gone to this far. Look at the water. Horrible. But that is no problem. It's only expensive. But annually, the water we get as a country can refill all these rivers. But how do you do away with what has already been polluted? And the environment, how do you repair the damage? That is the challenge we have. But God has blessed us with so much water that on an annual basis, we get water more than what we have now. The data is there. So please, let's move on. Let's go to the major item of the day, and then tomorrow we'll continue with the others. So leadership, please, lead the way. We've been called upon to call a roundtable discussion of all stakeholders on this electoral process. And Honorable Haruna, you raise it. Let's take serious interest in it. All stakeholders on the electoral process to make sure that we build trust before the election day. If not, the way we are going, this election is different from the earlier elections that we've undertaken in this country. And I'm sure many of you listened to Professor Emmanuel Kwesi Eni deliver his statement. I can give a copy to all of you to go and read. It's different, and it's very critical to the survival of our nation. So let's take it serious. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for inviting me. Mr. Speaker, if you will be pleased, I pray that motion number 9 be taken. Mr. Speaker, I proceed to pray this House. In my prayer, I shall move the House to rescind a decision taken on the 30th of July 2024 in respect of the disapproval of the report of the Finance Committee on the financing agreement between the government of the Republic of Ghana and the International Development Association of the World Bank Group for an amount of $250 million for the Ghana Energy Sector Recovery Program. So, Mr. Speaker, the background to this application is as follows. First, the Finance Committee, by consensus, had tabled before this House a report, which report they recommended that we approve this important facility. However, Mr. Speaker, in the ensuing debate, the need arose for the House to take a critical look at certain expenditure items, because the expenditure items were global in nature, particularly an amount of 90 million and how it was supposed to be spent. The House took a different view. Subsequently, my office engaged the Finance Committee, and per the engagement, the details have been provided. In other words, we now have further and better particulars of that 90 million, the subject matter of the disagreement. Mr. Speaker, the Finance Committee itself had an extensive deliberation on this matter and came to a conclusion that the facility was very critical for the energy sector, especially the ECG. Mr. Speaker, I am moving this House on this motion well fortified by the rules of this House. Mr. Speaker, I am relying on Order 123.5 of the newly approved rules of this House in urging on this House to rescind its earlier decision. Mr. Speaker, for the avoidance of doubt, the rule upon which I mount this application provides as follows, quote, "A member shall not raise any specific question upon which the House has come to a conclusion during the current session, except on a substantive motion for rescission." And the content and the form of my application as couched to the effect that I want a rescission fall squarely within this provision, because I cannot raise a question of this matter once the matter is dealt with. This House is fontus. We cannot come back. There is an estoppel provision there, except to say, Mr. Speaker, that I would have to come by this motion, and that is why I have come by this motion. Mr. Speaker, on the details of this application regarding the attachment, which will be the subject matter of this clarification, I shall, with your leave, yield to the chair of the Finance Committee, who is my co-counsel in this application, to take up the details. Mr. Speaker, I am leading this application. He is my colleague in this matter. So, Mr. Speaker, the respected member for Okaikwe Central, who is a lawyer by profession and the chair of the committee, shall take up the rest of the submission. Mr. Speaker, I thank you, sir.
Honorable members, motion moved. Any seconder? Yes, Chairman of the Finance Committee.
Mr. Speaker, hello. Mr. Speaker, rise to second the motion and to associate myself with the comments made by the leader of the House. In seconding the motion, Mr. Speaker, I also provide the detailed breakdown of what led to the rescission, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under component 1 of the said facility. The global sum was 90 million United States dollars. And out of the 90 million United States dollars, $62.5 million was going to be used for smart prepay metering for consumers of ECG. $10 million is going to be used for smart prepay metering for consumers of NETCO. That's the Northern Electrification Development Company. $5 million for the enhancement of meter management systems. $10 million for the strengthening of customer information systems, both supply and installation. Another $2.5 million for other associated ICT systems for improving operational efficiency of ECG. Mr. Speaker, that makes up the 90 million US dollars. I thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the motion has been moved and seconded. It's now for the consideration of the House. I recognize Honorable Muntaka for good reason. Or you want to take the bite first? Because he actually, at the last occasion, raised this issue of 90 million. So I wanted him to say whether he was part of what has transpired and if there's any change has been proposed or suggested to us. Yes, Honorable Muntaka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me say that it's this morning that in the chamber that my colleague from the Finance Committee handed over a sheet for me showing what he just read. And Mr. Speaker, I've gone through it. And yes, Mr. Speaker, the total of the 250 million US dollars thereabout has now been provided in a sheet that indicates that they have broken the figure into details. And Mr. Speaker, if you recollect that day, my concern was the lumping of metering with consultancy that was totaling almost around 100 billion US dollars. Now, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the breakdown that they provided, you will see that for the IPF component part 1, yes, they've showed the 90 million and showed that 62.5 million US dollars was going to be used for meters. Equally, in the Greco strengthening of critical transmission, that component you also have about 52 million being used for meters. Then the consultancy, Mr. Speaker, you have first 4.8 million US dollars for consultancy for support capacity building of ECG, and another 5.2 for supporting the capacity building of sector institutions, Greco, Minister of Energy, PURC, Energy Commission, and others. Mr. Speaker, I'm concerned because the rankings, both ranking on finance and energy, are telling me that they don't have these details that was given me. Yes, I raised the concern, but I believe that they are the ranking on those committees, and they should have had this information even before me. Mr. Speaker, my only hope, yes, looking at the breakdown, obviously, it moved very different from what was done that day. And this gives at least some areas that can help this House in its oversight. My only prayer is that the ranking on both energy and finance will ensure that this is not just a paper that has been provided us to allow the loan to pass, but when it comes to implementation, it is going to be something else. Because if you see the sheet, yes, I have no doubt to mistrust or to disagree or to say that this is not authentic from my colleague, the chair of the Finance Committee, and for that matter, Minister of Energy. But my only worry is that in the implementation, these breakdowns are going to be adhered to. Having said this, Mr. Speaker, I still believe that, Mr. Speaker, we need to, as a House, be very firm on how much of a loan could be spent on consultancy, or what I always describe as non-core issues. Because, Mr. Speaker, if I take the sheet and I look at the total of the 250 million, and in my view, I'm not an expert in this area, but just reading the headlines, I see that the non-core, what I call the non-core, that's not going to be directly in the energy sector recovery. For me, it's almost about 20%. And for me, that is too large. Because apart from a total of about 11 million or 10 million for consultancy, you have others like supporting to roll out clean cooking program. What is that going to entail? If you add all those little things that have been mentioned again and again, you see that a total of almost close to 40 million may be going into the non-core. And Mr. Speaker, we should not be allowing them to give us a loan and detect some of these things that does not add direct benefit. Because even though it may look concessionary, like I said the other time, Mr. Speaker, we will pay for it. And therefore, we must ensure that the very details of what it entails is known, so that when it comes to oversight, Parliament can play its oversight properly. Mr. Speaker, with this comment, I want to add that, yes, with this breakdown, that clearly shows that consultancy is not going to take the chunk of the 90 or 94 million, but it's going to take only about 10 million. Even though I agree the consultancy 10 million is still very high, at least that's giving us some indication, an indicator that we can monitor to ensure that about 84 million of the 94 million, as stated that day, are going into meters and other things, even though I see some of them as, in my view, non-core. With this, Mr. Speaker, I will urge my colleagues, especially on Finance and Energy Committee, to ensure that in oversighting, we ensure that this breakdown is implemented. Because once they've given us this, in the implementation, it should follow same. With this, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to contribute. Thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the mover of the motion, the majority leader, relied on Standing Order 1, 2, 3, 5 as grounding his motion. Mr. Speaker, 1, 2, 3, subclause 5 says a member shall not raise any specific question upon which the House has come to a conclusion during the current session except on a substantive motion for rescission. Mr. Speaker, 1, 2, 3 talks about the content of speech during debate. Generally, it regulates debate and the content of speech during debate. So you cannot cite 1, 2, 3, 5 as the basis for moving a substantive motion for rescission. To move a substantive motion for rescission, you have to come to 103D. 103D of our new standing orders deals with motions on matters that we have already decided on. So if you read 103, it says, a motion shall relate to a definite issue and not, D, revive the consideration of a matter which had been considered in the same meeting unless new matters have arisen. Unless new matters have arisen. So what it means is that you can bring a motion on a matter that we have already taken a decision on when new matters have arisen. So to move a motion for rescission on the basis of 1, 2, 3, 5 is flawed. The proper provision that you should ground a motion for rescission is the provision dealing with motions. The provision dealing with motions. And that provision allows you to actually move a motion for a rescission where new matters have arisen. And I think that that is why you should be basing your motion on not 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 only mentions motion for rescission, but it is not the provision allowing you to move a motion for rescission. It is not. It is about raising an issue in the course of debate when that issue has already been decided on by the House during that meeting. That is what 1, 2, 3, 5 is about.
Yes,
Yeah.
Honorable Ranking Member.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, we would like to put on record that the Finance Committee was never engaged leading to this motion to rescind. And the majority leader was very categorical that on the basis of the conversations that took place, he engaged the Finance Committee. I want to put it on record that no such engagement ever took place, either at the level of the leadership of the committee or the entire membership. And so we are hearing this for the first time. We are not privy to the document to which he was speaking. We do not know how he arrived at those numbers. And as a matter of fact, we cannot be supporting something we are not privy to. And so our position is quite simply that the decision taken by this House must stand, and we are opposed to any refusal. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
You, Majority Leader, I thought Honorable K.T. Hammond was. You are not on your feet, but I see you standing.
Speaker, in my desperation, I was beginning to take a very desperate decision.
Don't be desperate. Don't
I
be
am.
desperate.
They're making me very desperate. They are not sticking to any script, Mr. Speaker, and it's troubling me.
Well, let me listen to the Majority Leader. I'll come back to you.
Mr. Speaker, I want to be humble enough to accept where I've heard. Perhaps if in my submission I slipped by saying I engaged the Finance Committee, in my application, I would beg Honorable Adongo for leave to make this correction. As a leader of the House, having listened to the debate and having perused the official records of the day, I did engage the chair of the committee. And I came to a conclusion that your committee had made a recommendation by consensus. And in fact, upon perusing the comments on the House floor, I realized that members of the committee were added on their recommendation. However, Honorable Muntaka Mubarak raised a serious concern in respect of the breakdown of an aspect of the expenditure, i.e. the $90 million, of which I engaged the Finance Committee chair that on government side, looking at the official report, this is a major issue that the Honorable Muntaka MP for Asawase has raised. Therefore, if we can have details to address the concerns raised by him, then I can mount a rescission application, because a rescission application must not be lame. I must be fortified by certain facts. Now, at least on this House floor, we have all heard Honorable Muntaka, and the views he has expressed are to the effect that, having perused the breakdown, he is satisfied and he urges members to now proceed to consider as per the recommendation by the Finance Committee. However, he proposes a strong monitoring regime by both the Finance Committee and the Energy Committee, a view that I associate with, because this Parliament, as part of its bona fides, has an oversight responsibility extending beyond approval. Therefore, we don't need to litigate the matter. My respected senior, who delves into jurisprudence, has raised the issue of procedure. But I'm saying that, granted he is right, that I couldn't have stood on only that leg to mount my application. Perhaps mutatis mutandis, we could apply the rule. Except to say that our rules, as it stands, does not expressly provide clearly what we should do on rescission. So we can pick from here and there. So I agree with him. The leg of the argument that it's a substantive motion. So perhaps I should have cited it. He's my senior at the bar, and in all humility, senior, I agree that that should have been stated for the record, so that students of parliamentary law would learn that I can only come under the rule I quoted, but I can also fortify myself with the provision you quoted. That I agree. So, Mr. Speaker, in all humility, therefore, I believe that the matters have been settled. This rescission application on all fours be carried, so that we can now have the way to deal with the substantive application, which was the subject matter of the Finance Committee's recommendation. Mr. Speaker, I rest my case, sir.
Honorable Jinapo.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, first of all, as you would recall, the House, in disapproving of this motion, did not state a reason that the motion was disapproved because of what Honorable Muntaka said. So to assume that we disapproved of this motion solely because of what Honorable Muntaka said, for me, is flawed. It could be one of several reasons, a multiplicity of reasons, an array of reasons leading to the rejection of this motion. And so even if you bring something that satisfies Honorable Muntaka, with the greatest of respect, you've not satisfied that of Honorable John Jinapo. Neither have you satisfied that of Honorable Akando in particular, who raised a very serious issue as far as this whole agreement is concerned. Mr. Speaker, the right thing to do, and they know the right thing to do. The House has rejected this application. You have fresh information today. Relay it, refer it to the Finance Committee, we would immediately do justice to the issue, and then we will bring a report to the floor for consideration. If members of Parliament are so convinced and they want to approve this facility, they will do so. Mr. Speaker, I have nothing more to add, nothing less to add. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Katie Amon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm getting distressed by the procedural route my colleagues encouraging the House to take. Mr. Speaker, when a decision is made by the House and there's a need on a substantive motion to seek rescission, Mr. Speaker, by the new rules is indicating that there must be new set of evidence. Well, he made a point that originally when the decision was made, or the House decided to refuse to approve it, no reasons were assigned. So when it comes to substantive motion to rescind the decision, Mr. Speaker, it wouldn't have been a question of how many reasons, what reasons there are to rescind the motion. It's simply a matter of a motion being debated, being raised to start with, debated, and Mr. Speaker, voted on. In this particular contest, Majority Leader explained it this way. At the time of the debate, a particular matter came up which was raised very forcefully by our colleague from Aswansi. He, as a majority leader, leader of government business, is considered this matter in great detail. Is consulted with the committee's head, finance committee's chairman. So, Mr. Speaker, he comes to the House today and says this. On the rationalization and analysis of what took place the last time, we on this side, headed by him to start with, he is the head of the whole chamber of the House. He is making this motion, bringing this motion, Mr. Speaker, for rescission. I would have thought that, Mr. Speaker, all that happens is what exactly has happened. He makes his motion, speaks to it, moves the motion, speaks to it. It is seconded by, it could have been seconded by anybody. In this case, seconded by the chairman of the finance committee. Mr. Speaker, but in so doing, he incorporates what he thought were matters which were new developments. It's new, Mr. Speaker, new development, new evidence in the context that he now has had to break down the matters which were disturbing to him. There was a bulk figure which he didn't quite comprehend why it should feature as prominently as it was. It's now been dissected by the majority leader, broken down, Mr. Speaker, to its salient materials and the ingredients. I would have thought, Mr. Speaker, if we're talking about new set of evidence, that is what is new. That is what is actuated him, Mr. Speaker, now to bring this motion for rescission. He has brought it. Somebody raised the point that, well, as far as they are concerned, the original decision stood. How could it be? How could it be when there is a new motion, there's a new suggestion on the floor, the motion for rescission? It is the rescission. It is not what originally was, what may have or may not have been on the floor. It is what is currently on the floor, and what is here, Mr. Speaker, now is the motion for rescission. He is spectacularly, he is brilliantly, he is in his usual articulate manner, Mr. Speaker, moved it. The finance committee chairman, Mr. Speaker, is seconded it. My view is that, Mr. Speaker, it is now the time for the, if the debate is over, for the Speaker to then put the question with respect to the question of rescission. As for the procedures, the paragraphs of standard orders which may have been applied, which may be applicable or not, it's a different matter. That document is becoming a little bit of a difficulty in the House. But, Mr. Speaker, I think we've gotten to a point where it is Mr. Speaker's duty now to put the question. And it isn't in the mouth of anybody, it doesn't lie in the mouth of anybody, Mr. Speaker, to suggest that we go back to what stood before we came back today. What's on the floor today, Mr. Speaker, is a motion for rescission, and it has been adequately explained, it has been seconded, And that is what the Speaker will now have to vote on. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Minority Leader.
Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, earlier on, I warned that there's the need for the committee to be aware of the details my majority leader is going to present to us. Mr. Speaker, we've heard from the chairman of the committee, and we've heard from the ranking member of the committee and some members of the finance committee. Clearly, Mr. Speaker, members of the finance committee are seeing this for the first time. Mr. Speaker, this A4 sheet of paper contains a table with a description and allocation, a table indicating projects and amount of money that has been allocated into the project. Mr. Speaker, there is the need for us to synchronize this sheet of paper with the loan agreement. And this can only be done by the finance committee. And until that has been done, we cannot support a process that will seek to reverse a decision. Mr. Speaker, the fact remains, and I suggest that, Mr. Speaker, that this sheet of paper
Second Deputy Speaker
be
will
laid.
take the chair. I'll be back soon.
Yeah, leader, let's continue.
Mr. Speaker, my suggestion is that this A4 sheet of paper that contains the description and allocation of an amount totaling $260 million be laid and referred to the Finance Committee for consideration. Mr. Speaker, it is at that point when the members of the Finance Committee will be able to apprise themselves and guide the House appropriately. The Speaker, Parliament will work with committees. And I will have to rely on the Committee on Finance to be able to support a rescission or oppose a rescission. On the basis of that, Mr. Speaker, what is before us, as I indicated, is an A4 sheet of paper. I do not have with me a full complement of the loan agreement that was rejected. I do not have with me the project appraisal document. And it's until you have that document that you can reconcile these numbers to be able to confirm the position that Honorable Muntaka has raised. Mr. Speaker, that is important. That is important. If the ranking member was surprised with this information, Mr. Speaker, probably, his views on this matter may be different. But until he gets information, for him to be able to adequately cross-check in the document that he's asking us to rescind, Mr. Speaker, it will be very difficult for members of the Finance Committee to take a decision that will guide this House. Mr. Speaker, I suggest that this House goes with the Honorable Jenapo's position, that this document, this sheet of paper, A4 sheet of paper, be now referred to the Finance Committee, for the Finance Committee to immediately meet. Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure this will take them long, but they will have to do some due diligence to confirm that indeed the $90 million that Honorable Muntaka raised, the number that he raised earlier, does not reflect the details of the loan agreement. Mr. Speaker, at this stage, it's so difficult for us to confirm, and I do not believe that we can do that on this floor. And so I urge that the matter be referred to the Finance Committee, for the Finance Committee to be able to do their job and report appropriately. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, let me go back to the chairman of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We debated a consensus report on the floor of the House. dated August 20th, before we adjourn, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the annexure to the report where Honorable Muntaka raised that issue, it's on page 20. That was the contention. Mr. Speaker, each and every member of Parliament was furnished with the World Bank's report on this facility, Mr. Speaker. So I'm at a loss when members say, oh, they don't have the appraisal report. They don't have a report. They haven't seen that. This is a consensus report. Mr. Speaker, you can even request for the minutes of the committee sitting to satisfy yourself that nobody came here to mislead or misdirect the House. This is a consensus report from your committee. This is a document that was given to each member of Parliament, out of which we sat and generated a report. The 90 billion issue was what we broke down, and I even walked personally to the minority leader and gave him a copy, Mr. Speaker. So I'm at a loss, and it's already in the report. We just broke down the figures to state that 62.5 million was for meters. We're going to supply 1.5 million meters. NETCO was going to be giving $10 million and other ICT-related matters, Mr. Speaker. So I don't know what we are talking about here. If it's the case that the facility is not going to be supported, the minority is at will to say so. But to tell us that they are unaware of what we are doing, Mr. Speaker, is very dangerous for this House. I thank you very much.
Yes. Honorable Member for Tamale South.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you very much and to urge leadership and your good self to manage this process much more better than we are hearing. Mr. Speaker, this Parliament and this House, our work is entirely governed, more importantly, by the 1992 Constitution and our standing orders. Having listened to the majority leader, the minority leader, and the chairman of the Finance Committee, Mr. Speaker, probably what should have happened on the day the Honorable Muntaka raised those matters relating to the 90 million was for the House to have deferred a decision on the matter appropriately. The House should have deferred a decision, consult more, and then come back and take it. But, Mr. Speaker, the House took a decision. Which decision was that a vote was lost on a 250 million loan application submitted by the Honorable Minister for Finance. So, Mr. Speaker, first lesson, Article 181 is what brings ministers of finance to Parliament, which says that Parliament shall approve. Mr. Speaker, I want to go to the words in the Constitution. In Article 1814, an act of Parliament enacted in accordance with Clause 3 of this article, I'll come to 3, Hansard to take note, shall provide that the terms and conditions of the loan. So, which were the terms and conditions of the loan, was what we reviewed. The 90,000 so raised by the Honorable Member for Asawasi, 90 million US dollars. Does it affect the terms and conditions of the loan? So, Mr. Speaker, 2, lesson to learn. Our standing orders new. What does it say? When you say you are rescinding a decision, it is as if the decision, irrebuttable presumption, was made in error. No, there was no error. Parliament took a decision, and Parliament took a decision to reject a loan. If you are coming back, the appropriate thing would be to say that we are now coming back with this loan with consequential review. You have reviewed the amount of 90 million. The way you sought to spend it earlier, is that the way you now want to spend it? No. So that means there is a change in what you are seeking to do with the loan. So, Mr. Speaker,
I don't think that there must be splitting of heads. You want 260 million. This House, subject to leadership, is amenable to approving 260 million for you. But walk through due process. Which process is that? Refer the matter to the Finance Committee. They take few minutes because in the words of the chairman, there was a consensus decision. Go back to your decision, review it, address the 90 million, which was allocated for purpose of consultancy, then come back to this House. Then, Mr. Speaker, for you to note that our standing orders, which was referred to, will need an improvement. We have just reviewed the standing orders. How do we deal with such matters in future? Mr. Speaker, we didn't defer this matter. We took a decision on the matter. What was the decision? A rejection. Do you just walk back with a rejection? No. We're supposed to, as I said, the Speaker should have guided us. We should have deferred a decision and responded appropriately to the issues raised by the Honorable Mumtaka and other members of Parliament on the 250 million. So, Mr. Speaker, let leadership do what is appropriate. When you say motion for rescission, what are you rescinding? Because the precedent we are setting, tomorrow Parliament may take a decision on a matter after 24 hours. And I just give you this typical statistical situation. You have a situation where the party, for some reason, Article 104, voting is based on members present and voting. You get a motion defeated because you lack numbers. The next day you have numbers, you walk back and say rescission. That precedent I'm worried about because Article 104 say that take decisions based on members present and voting, not necessarily on your strength. So let us not set precedent tomorrow. That will be difficult. Mr. Speaker, my understanding is that there would be no objection to this loan if the issues raised, including that of Muntaka, are addressed. So just let a minister bow, lay it, refer it to Finance Committee. Mr. Speaker, give them 1 hour. They should report back to us. Or even tomorrow. They should look at it and come back tomorrow because I also belong to the school of thought that this Parliament is too quick in granting loan approval. The crisis the country is in today, unsustainable debt, this Parliament must share the blame because they just walk in with loans and with alacrity we approve them, no due diligence, no value for money. What are we taking the Ghanaian taxpayers for? So please, leadership, get this matter resolved. Procedurally, we are working wrongly. You didn't defer the matter. You allowed the Speaker to put a question and you got it defeated. No,
Honorable Member.
No. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. So the Right Honorable Speaker will take the seat back.
Honorable members, this is one of the issues, if you listen to my formal statement this morning, I referred to. That's one of the items I referred to, a possible consideration of this motion. Honorable members, we had suspension for 10 minutes. When we resumed, I did indicate that there was some further discussion about the business that should come before this House. And this is one of the issues that was discussed by leadership. I admitted the motion based on the order that Honorable Mama Yarga quoted, Order 103, who deals with conditions for admissibility of motion. That is the condition I used to admit the motion. There were two proposals, either to go through a rescission or to start afresh and come by a referral to the committee and the committee reporting back to the House for us to discuss it. Personally, I looked at both the form and the substance. And I thought that in spite of the fact that we all agree that the form is as important as the substance, from time to time, you look at the context. And then I was convinced that the context in which we are today as a nation, we needed to place more emphasis on the substance than the form. And so I advised that once we have a provision which deals with rescission of an earlier decision of the House, we could come through that provision. Some members of leadership, including the majority leader, was looking at us referring the matter back to the committee. But that matter is not before the House to be referred to the committee, which meant that they'll have to go back, consider the new matters, then resubmit the paper for it to be referred to the committee, for the committee to consider and report back to the House. If there is any fault, then me as Speaker is partly to blame, because I took the position that in view of the critical situation we are faced with as a nation, we should go through rescission process. And so I advised that that was the better course to go. And I admitted the motion for rescission. That is why it was moved. But in moving the motion, I agree with Mama Yarga that there was the need to refer to Order 103, which the mover of the motion, the majority leader, also conceded in his response. You cannot put everything on paper when you are dealing with procedures. They come with experience, with implementation and operationalization of the law. And that is what we are doing now. And so, yes, this is the first time we are faced with it. We are setting the precedent for future parliaments. If there is a need for fine-tuning of the rules, that will also be done in the future. But I want to urge the House to take a very passionate view of this matter. We looked at the second item, which also had to do with an IDA facility. And truly, there was no resolution of that matter. And so the understanding was that that matter is likely not to be taken in this recall. And so we're left with only this one to be the last straw to hang on. And that is why I permitted that the majority leader should move the motion. This was done in good faith and in the national interest. Nothing more, nothing less. But if it is the position of the House that we should refer it back to the committee, then the proper thing will be done, and it cannot be done within this meeting. It means that it will be at the next meeting And so what would we have achieved in the whole recall of Parliament? If you listen to me, the day the decision was taken by the House, I put the question. I was convinced that the report that was submitted by the committee was on consensus. What led to the change of mind was the strong submissions by Honorable Muntaka. That was my understanding. The ranking member of the Finance Committee made his submissions. A number of you made your contributions. But what tilted the view was the submission of Honorable Muntaka on the 90, which he later said 94 million, that was going only for consultancy services. And so that is what the rescission motion meant to refer to and to correct that impression that all that money was not going for consultancy. And that's why there was focus in that area. So it's a new area that we are ironing out for our guidance. And I think that is something we should take in the national interest. None of us is interested in our economy collapsing to the extent that we become a failed state and it will be difficult to revive. We know what is happening. You all have the data. And so at least let's have some descent to lean on. And so I want to urge the House to take a serious view of this matter and to do what you consider proper. I'm not part of the decision, but it is my duty to guide the House in these matters, and that is exactly what I'm doing. Yes, Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I think we've noted what you've just said. And I think in following up on that, I think what we are suggesting, and I think the Minority Leader stated that, is for us to allow the Finance Committee to engage, even if it's for briefly, to reach some agreement and then report back to the House, and then we can move forward. Even if it's for 30 minutes, if it's for 1 hour, the Finance Committee must engage, the chairman and the ranking and the leadership must engage, because they are the ones that will guide us. Let them engage and then report back to us, and then we can move forward. I think that we believe that they did, but based on this new development, you heard the ranking of the committee on this particular new changes. He said he needed to be engaged on it. You stood up and corrected yourself. I'm talking about the Majority Leader, that indeed you did not engage the ranking or the minority members. You engaged the chairman. And I'm just trying to get the committee to engage and then report back to this House. And I think once we do that, we can go forward from there. I thank you.
Well, honorable members, in these circumstances, I will refer this matter to the Finance Committee. Oh, sorry. You were not on your feet. Sorry. Majority Leader, yes.
Mr. Speaker, if it's the pleasure of my colleagues that at least the Finance Committee leadership should engage, I would have no objection. Like I indicated earlier, I believe in the words of the chair of the committee. He is a lawyer. I don't take his words for granted. And I know he will tell me what it is. He had indicated that that engagement had taken place. That engagement had taken place. However, if, for the records, we want them to engage, Mr. Speaker, we are going for lunch. We can break for lunch. Whilst we are having lunch, the Finance Committee can engage and then even share the document, so that by the time we come back, at least they themselves can speak to it. And Mr. Speaker, for emphasis, there was only one line item that we needed a breakdown, because the impression created earlier, as you rightly stated, was that 90 million plus was going to consultancy. Now we have a breakdown. But it must also, for the records, be stated that they as a committee were satisfied. Let us get that they as a committee were satisfied and spoke to the issue. But so it's not a matter of a new thing being sent to them to engage them again as a committee. No. They as a committee met the stakeholders and they were satisfied with all the information given them. However, Mr. Speaker, this is a new thing that has come up, which is in the national interest for all of us to have the breakdown. So, Mr. Speaker, I agree to the position that the engagement, Mr. Speaker, the word is engagement. We use the break for them to engage so that by the time we come back, at least they can have a word or two on the engagement and we make progress. I thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. You may now direct the engagement, Mr. Speaker,
members,
of members.
I will accordingly refer the matter to the Finance Committee to consider and report back to the House. I am not urging them to report back today, but at least latest by tomorrow, they report. By tomorrow, latest, they report.
Mr. Speaker, with respect. Mr. Speaker, with respect. Mr. Speaker, the prayer from the Deputy Minority Leader, which prayer I corroborated, was to the effect that whilst we take a lunch break, they should engage, and then when we come back, we can take the matter up. So, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I am only, Mr. Speaker, at least that is coming from the leadership of your bench. No, honorable colleagues, we are getting to a point. We are supposed to support Mr. Speaker to help us in decision making. Your leadership has requested for some 30 minutes engagement. And I'm saying that even beyond the 30 minutes, we're going for lunch break so that we can use the lunch break of about an hour or so for them to engage. This is what I am telling Mr. Speaker. But for you to say that no to that, Mr. Speaker, then I don't know where we are headed towards on this matter.
Honorable Majority Leader, I know where we are heading towards. You don't know. When you read my age, you will know. You cannot be going on lunch break at 4 p.m. I don't know what lunch that will be. But, honorable members, I accordingly refer the matter to the Committee on Finance to report back latest by tomorrow. We will proceed to take some papers for presentation because of the urgent nature of the items. They are not to be dealt with during this meeting. No. They will be referred to the various committees for consideration during the recess. So we'll proceed to take that one, and then we can call it a day. But Honorable Bawa, I will listen to you. Yes, what is it?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, after perusing at least the document that was brought, and I'm talking of the report on the energy sector recovery program, I would suggest, because of the content of it, I will suggest that you have a joint committee of finance and that of energy. Yes, it's a financing activity, but the activities they are going to do borders on energy. And for the House to do a very good job, I think that energy should be included in the committee.
Yes, Honorable Rashid Pepu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, your ruling is very much adequately received. But I want to suggest that there had been a paper which was referred to by Honorable Mutaka, which the committee said they didn't know about it. I suggest that it's laid in addition to the existing document, so that when the committee meets, they have reason to look at something. Otherwise, the information therein here is very inadequate as a consideration of the issues that are being raised in addition to the existing paper right now here. Mr. Speaker, so I urge that that document is laid in addition to this document, so that the details of the $94 million, which is supposed to have been on consultancy, is now properly streamlined in the existing document. Thank you.
Well, honorable members, definitely that document will be part of the materials that will be made available to the committee. Now, the question to determine is whether you want us to add the Energy Committee to the consideration of this referral. It was done by the Committee on Finance. A decision was taken. There's a reason why it has to be reconsidered. Do we have to add the Committee on Energy? Yes, Honorable Habib.
Mr. Speaker, I think the earlier referral had the leadership of the Energy Committee with the Finance Committee. So the leadership of the Energy Committee were part of the decision. They were engaged until they reached the consensus report. Unless it's the case that to relook at the document, you still want to vary and add all members of the Energy Committee. But the leadership of the Energy Committee were part of this decision, Mr. Speaker.
So for compromise, let's go back to the same committee, Finance Committee, supported by the leadership of the Committee on Energy. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I think that it is true that the referral that was made earlier included the leadership of the Energy Committee. The issues that we are dealing with right now that has resulted in the extension of this loan has to do with ECG. If you look at the specific issues, smart prepayment meters, and other issues that are all connected to the distribution sector. And so, yes, the leadership of the Energy Committee, but I would humbly ask that 2 members of the Energy Committee can join them, because it will really help to enrich that short discussion they will have. And in that recommendation, Bauer has to be part of it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
With respect, I think the suggestion that came from the other side, which was corroborated by our side, is enough. The leadership of the Energy Committee is enough. We don't need to belabor that point. So, Deputy Leader, with respect, let's proceed. Speaker, I think we can end it there.
Honorable members, the matter is referred to the Finance Committee with the support of the leadership of the Committee on Energy. This is for their consideration and report to the House latest by tomorrow. Referred accordingly. Honorable members, we now take the few items that are left, just presentation, and then whether you move a motion for adjournment or not, I will proceed to adjourn to tomorrow. Yes. So, order paper addendum at the commencement of public business. Majority Chief of yes.
Speaker, at the commencement of public business, may we start off with item 1. And I seek your leave for it to be taken by the Minister for Employment instead.
Yes, Minority Leader. Any objection?
Mr. Speaker, just to bring to your attention that the regulations that will be laid today, the 2A, 2B, 2C.
Let's finish with one. Let's finish with one. Then when we get to 2, then you can raise it. I can see Honorable Dr. Zaneto. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. On this paper, the heading talks about the Greater Accra Metropolitan Area, of which my constituency or the municipality, which is Korle-Klottey, used to be a part and has been decoupled. So how does it reflect in terms of the wording if the municipal assembly, which is Korle-Klottey, is part of this? Is there, I'm just seeking your guidance on whether the wording has to be changed as we are no longer under Accra Metropolitan Area.
Honorable Member, until the papers are laid, I won't know what is the contents of the papers. So when they lay it, then we'll go through it to see whether the issue you are raising arises or not. So it's just for it to be presented. Then as they go through it, we can address that issue. Honorable members, the following paper to be presented, I'm told, should be by the Minister for Sanitation and Water.
I earlier sought your leave for it to be taken by the Minister for...
The Minister for...
No.
Finance.
I sought your leave for the business to be taken by the Minister for Labor.
Labor?
Yes. With your leave.
This is a matter dealing with water and sanitation. Even though it's a financial matter, and the Minister for Finance is not available, but the Minister of Water and Sanitation is available. Why are we looking at the Minister of Labor?
Speaker, with respect, the business is, the trust of it is a financing agreement. So it is rarely captured. It's supposed to be done by the Minister of Finance. But we, however, have the Deputy Minister of Finance here. So if, with your leave, he could do the business for the Minister of Finance.
Yeah, but that's the issue I'm raising. But you were calling on me to rather allow the Minister for Labor.
So I've varied my earlier application.
Okay. Honorable members, the application is for the Deputy Minister of Finance to present the paper to the House. Yes, Honorable Minority Whip.
Mr. Speaker, we have, with the being sought for another minister to lay the paper on behalf of the Minister for Sanitation, but the quality and the good role of us. Mr. Speaker, we have no problem with your ruling, but I want to come under Order 96.3, where some explanation is being requested for the minister who will be laying the paper to make a short explanation to satisfy the request being made by the honorable member for Clotekoli and my good self, Mr. Speaker. Beyond that, we have no objection to another minister laying it, provided he can give that short explanatory.
Yes, Deputy Minister for Finance, you may lay the paper and comply with Order 93.3, where it says the text of the statement as admitted shall be read. Is that the one you're referring to, 93.3? (97.3). Yes. So, Honorable Deputy Minister, laying the paper currently comply with Order 97.3.
We want explanation.
Deputy Minister of Finance.
Financing agreement between the Government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Finance and the International Development Association of the World Bank Group for an amount of $30 million United States dollars as the second additional funding for the ongoing Greater Accra Metropolitan Area Water and Sanitation Project.
Yes. May you now comply with 97.3 before I refer it to the committee? Order 97.3. Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Now, I don't know which title to give you.
Mr. Speaker, we'll come to that. Mr. Speaker, the issue that is being raised by the Deputy Minority Whip, one can only ask the question or for further particulars about a paper that has been laid. If it has not been laid, how can he get up to say that I'm doing this before it is laid? It's so much out of order. Mr. Speaker, this is never seen in this house. After he has laid it, and if you want further particulars, then you can come with a request. But even before it is done, you rise up to say that when you have done it, then I must. What is this?
Exactly what I stated. Exactly what I stated. I said, in laying the paper, he should respond to the requirement of Order 97.3, which says a short explanatory statement shall be made by the person presenting a paper where requested by the House or a member upon the presentation. Yes, so, yes, that's what I've asked him to do. Yes, Honorable Deputy Minister, kindly respond to the request.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In fact, Mr. Speaker, this is an ongoing project that we are committing this amount to extend water to deprived communities in parts of Ashanti region, and also wastewater processing project at Asafo in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. Thank you very much.
The matter is talking about Greater Accra Metropolitan Area. And you are talking about Ashanti region. Yes, is that
MP for Doma Central.
former Minister for Health?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think there is anything wrong with the paper the finance minister is supposed to present. If I had a title properly, We are talking about Greater Accra Metropolitan Area. That includes Osu Klote. No. I'm going back to where my sister, started the issue. Mr. Speaker, Osu Klote is part of Greater Accra Metropolitan Area. So that the presentation, the paper's title is not Accra Metropolitan Assembly. So her place is included. And I don't see why we should explain. The Kumasi one is not there, please. I was going to say that we don't need any explanation. That brought in the Kumasi matter. But I don't think we should consider that. So it is good as it is. And like you said, Mr. Speaker, when it is late and we look at it, and the paper seems to exclude Kole Klote, we'll then find a way to bring it back in. But for me, the understanding is that Kole Klote is still part of what we are considering. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, when we get the papers, we'll know. So the paper has been laid, and I refer it to the Committee on Finance with the support of the leadership of the Committee on Water and Sanitation. Please kindly consider and report back to the House when we resume, not this meeting. Yes, item 2. Minority Chief Whip.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I heard the Deputy Minister say it's for wastewater processing. Mr. Speaker, this is a house of record. Actually, what we do to wastewater is to treat. So when he says wastewater processing in Kumasi, what the project is going to be doing is treat wastewater, not process wastewater. So let the record reflect, we are not approving a loan to process wastewater. We are trying to treat wastewater.
Honorable Minority Chief Whip, it was a slip of tongue. Yes. May we go on to item 2?
Speaker, shall we proceed to item 2? And let me seek your leave for it to be taken by our respected former Majority Leader, the Honorable Seiche Mensah-Bonsu, now Minister of State.
Yes, item 2A, Public-Private Partnership Regulations 2024. Honorable Minister of State.
Public-Private Partnership Regulations 2024.
Honorable members, the regulations are referred to the Committee on Subsidiary Legislation for consideration and report to the House. 2B.
Cyber Security Regulations 2024.
Honorable members, the said regulations are also referred to the Committee on Communications for consideration and report to the House.
Right, Honorable
Yes,
Speaker.
please. Yes.
In view of the fact that these are
Subsidiary legislation, yes.
Yeah, very well.
Subsidiary legislation with the support of the leadership of the Committee on Communications.
Thank
yes,
you, Mr. Speaker.
You are right.
Thank you.
Thank you. 2C.
Cyber Security Terms and Conditions of Service Regulations 2024.
Honorable members, this is also referred to the Subsidiary Legislation Committee with the support of the leadership of the Committee on Communications. Item 3. 3A, Ghana Thermal Authority Bill 2024. Yes.
May I seek your leave for it to be taken by the Deputy Minister of Energy? And Speaker, if 3A, B, C, D, E could be taken in whole.
Any objection to that? They are dealing with the same sector, and the request is for the sector minister, in fact, deputy minister, to lay all at a go. Yes. No objection. So, Honorable Deputy Minister, you may do so.
He's done it already.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
And act to.
Sorry, just hold on. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, is the Deputy Minister for Energy going to present the papers numbers item 3, A, B, C, D, and E?
Exactly what the request was for.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, clearly I represent the good people of Banda, which includes Bui. And Bui Power Authority, Mr. Speaker, is Iman constituency. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that concerns all the chiefs and people of the Banda district as well as Bole Bambwe. Mr. Speaker, when you first raised the matter of the merger of Bui Power Authority and the Volta River Authority, that statement alone ignited fire in my constituency. And the Chief Executive Officer of Bui Power Authority was invited by the Banda Traditional Council to come and explain to them the intention of the merger of Bui Power Authority and Volta River Authority. Mr. Speaker, the Chief Executive Officer of Bui Power Authority explanation to the Traditional Council was that he had no explanation and that he was not privy to anything of that sort. And if they needed, they should go to the regional minister or the DCE. Mr. Speaker, as I speak to you, the people are in oblivion. They have no idea of what is happening there. Mr. Speaker, if we say we have 94 days to elections, Mr. Speaker, if you allow this number of papers to be laid, Ghana Thermal Authority Bill, Ghana Hydro Authority Bill, Mr. Speaker, merging all this, and you say that they will bring report, Mr. Speaker, in our next meeting. Mr. Speaker, we are all in our constituencies campaigning. 94 days to the exit of this government. What proper job, Mr. Speaker, will be done on this? The chiefs must be consulted, the people must be consulted, stakeholders must be consulted. And Mr. Speaker, I knew it was for good reason that the former President Kufuor decentralized. Now, why should we be going in the area of reconcentration? We may not bring efficiency. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, we must hasten slowly on the lane of these papers. Mr. Speaker, in this era, where we have problem with even ECG and PDS, you are saying that you are going to let Akosombo swallow Bui. Mr. Speaker, where are we heading to? And why are we in a haste? Mr. Speaker, if care is not taken, the information in my constituency is that the government wants to let Akosombo swallow Bui so that the government will bring all the thermal plants together and sell shares and buy them. Is this state capture? Should we allow this one to happen? Mr. Speaker, this is a serious issue. It's a serious issue. And we must not overspeed with this. Mr. Speaker, laying these papers in this house will turn this emergency recall emergency state capture. Where are you in a hurry to? Is Ghana going to cease after January 7th December 2024? No. Mr. Speaker, when President Kufuor was going for 622 million from China to come and construct Bui, the books of Akosombo could not be used to go and source for the loan. Akosombo couldn't do that. That is why President Kufuor used cocoa to go and guarantee for the loan. Now the cocoa sector is collapsed. And now you are saying that you should let Akosombo swallow Bui. Oh, Mr. Speaker, we must not tread on that path. And I think the best thing for us to do, Mr. Speaker, to step these things down. When we come in 2025, you will be here, we will be here. So we take our time, consult the stakeholders. Why was the Bui Power Authority Chief Executive running away from explaining to the chiefs? The chiefs must be informed. You have taken their land to construct a dam. You have not paid their compensation. Now you are going to give the same thing to Akosombo. You have not explained anything to them. That's why, is that democracy? Is that democracy? Where are we going to? Where are we going to? Mr. Speaker, this house must help to save the good people of Bola Bamboy and Banda constituency. We must help to continue the efficiency of the Bui Power Authority. Bui is not even combining renewable energy with hydro. Now you are saying that Akosombo can't do that. The whole of West Africa, the biggest solar plant, the biggest solar farm is in Bui. You are going to give it to Akosombo. You have not paid for our land. You are not giving us our compensation. Mr. Speaker, all of us are going to be captured. This will amount to an emergency state capture, and we must not tread on that path. Mr. Speaker, with this, I want you, tomorrow we'll raise it. I want you to let leadership engage with the minister. This thing was fought by the former Chief Executive Officer for Bui Power Authority, and that was Mr. Fred Owari. When Honorable Boecha Jakun wanted to do this, Fred Owari fought against it. What has happened? Is it because you are on the verge of exiting, you want to swallow all of us? Mr. Speaker, I rest my case. We must not continue with this.
Honorable members,
we call you.
I was actually getting worried about the health of the deputy minority leader's whip's voice. The voice was almost getting choked with passion. But at this stage, where the papers are being laid, I did not have that information, but it's good information you brought to our attention. I want to hear from the other side whether what he said is really true. I'll come back to you, but let me hear. Let me hear from the, yes, please.
Speaker, my friend and Deputy Whip is one of the very experienced colleagues in leadership. So I get worried and taken aback. What you've just done is surprising. Speaker, if we are to go into our orders, the inherent conditions for laying of papers is clear. It's very clear, unless you are inventing your own rules. Speaker, as and when sufficient copies are received by the table office, then they take necessary action. Is it the case that any provision, no, you are not even listening. Is it the case that any provision in the orders have been flouted? And earlier on, Deputy Leader, you signaled me, and I challenged you to check at the table office. We had done our homework well. I had challenged you. You have not even done that. Speaker, we have not, this is the first reading. You can lay in, yes, lay in. We've not gotten to second reading where we'll look at principles. What is this? I'm just surprised at this. Speaker, I think he's violently out of order. Violently out of order. And Speaker, you should rule him out. You should rule him. I don't want to say that he hasn't checked the rules because I know he knows the rules. He's intentionally inflicting pains on the House. Why are you doing this? Honorable Ahmed, what is your problem? Speaker, he has lost it. He's out of order. He should take a break and probably catch some water, get some water and drink, and then I think he'll be fine. But he's totally out of order. This is laying, as Speaker, you rightly advised him. You told him that at a point you were worried about his health. And so I thought he would have taken a cue. He's also trying to catch your attention to inflict more wounds on us. Why? Speaker, he's totally out of order, and I urge you to rule him out so that we can make progress.
Mr. Speaker, the government chief whip is asking me what is my problem. Mr. Speaker, I'm not here to be paid. I'm here to represent the good people of Bana. The good people of Bana called the Bui Power Chief Executive Officer. Mr. Speaker, when you made a statement at the beginning of the last meeting about the bills that were going to be presented in this house, that they heard the news and invite, as a traditional council, all the chiefs, they wrote a letter to the CEO of Bui Power Authority that this is what we have heard. Could you please come and explain to us? Mr. Speaker, he said he had no idea. And therefore, if the whole traditional council wanted to know about it, they should redirect their letter to the regional minister and the DCE. Mr. Speaker, I'm their MP. I represent them. You are asking me what is my problem. I'm going to be captured. My people are going to be captured. Mr. Speaker, they want to use we to compensate Akosomo, bring all the thermal plants together and sell them.
Honorable Deputy Whip.
I'm telling you, that is the information there.
Honorable Deputy Whip.
Mr. Speaker, that is the information there.
Honorable Deputy Whip.
I'm not just alleging. That is what you are going to do. If not, why are you in a hurry? Why are you in a hurry?
Honorable
Mr. Speaker, we must not assist them to capture all of us. You have not paid the land compensation. You have not paid the chiefs. And you are going to use we, including me, including all of us, to compensate Akosomo. Mr. Speaker, this should not be allowed to happen. That is my problem.
Yes, Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think that the reforms that is really culminated in these bills have been on the drawing board for a long time. But my worry is that I do not believe there's even a bill here in Parliament. I've tried everything to see whether even the table of have a copy of even one of these bills. I mean, there is, yes, I am, because I've done my investigations. The table office must confirm. There's no bill here. There's no bill in this Parliament for us to lay. And I'm asking the table office, if they have a copy, they should show us. I know we've talked about this before. And the Speaker had said that the table office, after laying, will always make copies available. But my worry is that the table office do not have even a copy. And if they have, they should confirm it, and then we can move forward. But this is very serious. And the issues we are dealing with, which is really the energy sector, which is at the heart and soul of this country's energy security, must not be played with in these 3 months of us on the verge of election. And I'm asking, do we have even these bills here in this house? I don't think so. If they do, they should confirm it.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I have listened to what Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim has had to say. First, per the rules of this House, if a bill goes through the process of presentation, a referral is made to the appropriate committee. So after the presentation, this house will now be seized with the document. And the referral made to the committee for deliberations. As part of the deliberations of the committee, stakeholder consultation is held. So all the issues that he's raising in respect of the views of the traditional authority and all, of the Bui traditional area and the Bole Bamboy traditional area, will be matters that the committee will definitely get into before even we start the clause by clause. Don't forget that before we even get to the consideration stage, the committee would have to present a report. And in that report, which will allow members to express views, some of the things that you are raising, that will be an opportune time for you to express them. But honorable colleague, Mr. Speaker, although you did not rule him out, he said certain things that have now formed part of our record. And I want to take this opportunity to pray him to reconsider, perhaps withdrawing these words, or Mr. Speaker, same being expunged from the record. Mr. Speaker, how does an enactment lead to a state capture? I mean, come on, honorable. You know, how do you say that we are going to sell the thermal plant, something is going to be sold, and it's a state capture to certain individuals and all that? No. Mr. Speaker, that is most unfair. This morning, you've been inviting us to a certain path. That partisanship, and attacking each other in this chamber, creating certain impression. Mr. Speaker, when we create a state of hopelessness, there will be nothing as democracy. If we are interested in what the tabloids will report tomorrow, at the end of the day, it will degenerate and people will lose confidence in us. This bill does not deal with state capture. You say that you have a problem with Ghana Power Distribution Authority Bill. You also have a problem with the Ghana Hydro Authority Bill. So the Ghana Hydro Authority Bill, your view is that instead of VRA and Bui Power Authority being two separate entities, remaining at two separate entities, you are against the government consolidating these two authorities and creating a Ghana Hydro Authority Bill. This issue can be well argued when we get to the second reading. Yes. Mr. Speaker, again, at stakeholder consultation, during the enactment process, even before we get to consideration stage, where we talk about clause by clause, you will still have an opportunity. The views of the chiefs can be heard so that their fears be allayed. How do you say that if this law is created, if we have a consolidation of two institutions, one is going to consume the other, one will be submerged, and then all the assets of Bui will be sold to Akosombo? If, honorable member, I have been in this house for a very limited period. You are older in this house than me. I haven't seen a statement from you raising an issue of non-payment of compensation. If there's an issue of non-payment of compensation, it is a far-right matter. We can all deal with it and support you. If you've raised same, and that has not been attended to, then it's a different matter to raise. But Bui Power Authority is in operation. It's in operation. It's been working. So that matter can be addressed. But if you say that the enactment will result in a state capture. Who is capturing whose property? Who is capturing whose property? Mr. Speaker, let us be mindful of our words, our choice of words, the phrases we put out, the language we use. If we create a toxic environment for all of us, none of us can run away from that toxic environment we create. It's inappropriate, Mr. Speaker. And I humbly submit that Honorable Member for Banda, Honorable Ibrahim Ahmed, can still make his points without these words being part of the records of this House. Mr. Speaker, I call on you to exercise discretion per the views expressed by me, to expand those aspects of his submissions that created the impression that this enactment, if it matures, would amount to a state capture. I so submit, sir.
The Honourable Member for Bole Bamboy.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very grateful. Mr. Speaker, I am the Member of Parliament for the great Bole Bamboy constituency. And we know that already. Bui Dam is situated in my constituency. And so, because it's part of my constituency, I strongly believe that I am a stakeholder. If others don't see that, I see that I am a very important member of parliament, stakeholder. Mr. Speaker, the Bolaura Safo Kotogo Feso and his chiefs allocated a very vast land for the construction of the Bui Dam. Mr. Speaker, if not for anything, there is a need for some respect to be accorded them. Mr. Speaker, there is no any stakeholder consultation, and nobody should tell me that it is only when you lay a bill that you now go to consult the stakeholders. This idea of showing disrespect to traditional rulers must stop. We are everywhere saying that we will pay traditional rulers when we are voted into power. We will pay them salaries when we are voted into power. When indeed, common respect, we don't accord them. And royalties payment, Mr. Speaker, if nobody has raised the issue of compensation, I, Honorable Yusuf Suleimana, representing the good people of Bole, raised the issue of compensation in this House several times. Compensation payment to the landowners and to people whose farms and other properties were affected have not been paid as we speak. And if there's going to be any decision, Mr. Speaker, it's only appropriate that we inform them. In any case, if we were to do things the way we wanted to do them, we were not told that we were coming to lay these bills. We were told of agent business that we were coming to do. Where is that agent business? That you bring us here, I thought by now, the very agent business that you are asking us to do, you would have been talking about it. Which one? You are now introducing different things. Mr. Speaker, I humbly suggest that if they have no business for us to do, you should adjourn us to go home. Mr. Speaker, everybody today is worried. We are worried when it comes to issues like this because of the document that is in circulation, and I'm referring to the Ajapade document. The Ajapade document is making all of us scared. And so even when you hear somebody coughing, you want to turn and see whether it's the implementation of the Ajapadia document. And that is why my good self and my brother, the honorable member for Banda, are worried. We are worried because we don't know. By tomorrow next, we'll now be thinking about how we are going to salvage we and its people from this Ajapadia document that we are all talking about. Mr. Speaker, lastly, stakeholder engagement must start before you come to lay any bill. It's about policy, and you don't take policy without doing consultations. And so I'm surprised that we are told that we should allow these things to be laid, and then you go and do consultations. When are you going to do consultations? We are appealing to you that for once, show respect to the chiefs of Boleb and Boy. We are appealing to you that for once, show respect to the chiefs of Banda traditional area, and that go and consult them before you come to lay whatever document you want to lay.
With these few words,
Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. And that I know, once you are in this seat, no Japadia document will suffice, and no Japadia document strategy will be used to ensure that the good people of Banda, that the good people of Boleb and Boy are denied their natural resources. And if you can't give them anything, I am saying that, please, tomorrow next, we will lead you to go and consult the chiefs. They matter. In any case, why are you rushing to do this? We are told that if you do everything today, tomorrow what will you be doing? That if you do everything today, Mr. Speaker, tomorrow what will you be doing? Why are you rushing to do everything today? Mr. Speaker, God bless you.
Honorable Chairman Sabons would want to have a by then. After that, Mr. Speaker, the papers can be laid. No, he called, Mr. Speaker called me.
Yes. This thing has covered me because I was a bit down. Yes, please, Honorable Osei Chairman Sabons.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect, I'm struggling to know what we are doing in this house today. With the greatest respect. Commentaries are being run on account of what? A paper is supposed to be laid. If it is laid and people have issues with them, they could raise them at the appropriate time. Now, there's nothing before this house. Mr. Speaker, when the deputy whip for the minority got up to talk, I thought you wanted to listen to him first before perhaps giving any directive. He ranted on, then we are hearing haranguing. On account of what? What is before this house to attract these comments? What's before this house? Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, there's nothing. The paper has not been laid. If it is laid and people have issues that after they've been laid, people want some clarification on the paper, given the times that we are in, that could be entertained. But for now, there's nothing at all before this house. So what are we hearing? What are we hearing? The issues that are being raised may perhaps be legitimate concerns. But for now, there's nothing before us. So why are we allowing this? Why are we allowing this? And reducing this house to speculative adventures when there's nothing before this house? Mr. Speaker, I find this very, very unfortunate. As I said, when the Honorable Ahmed started to make those comments, I thought you wanted to hear him through. and perhaps offer some directive to the House. He finished his own, and then we are hearing another person. Where are we? Mr. Speaker, if the papers are late, and the referrals are made, and presentations and representations are made before the appropriate committees, that could be entertained. As for those of them who are saying that perhaps it is late in the day, Mr. Speaker, in this country, after elections have been conducted and results have been declared, sitting presidents have made appointments. They were not late in the day. They were not late in the day because the president said that his term ends midnight, 6th January. The nation had to indulge him. Mr. Speaker, let's do what is right. If the bills are referred, they are laid and presented to the appropriate committee, and people have issues, in particular relating to the payment of compensations and other matters, they could be made before the committees. If they are voluminous and the committees then feel that we cannot deal with this, given the space of time that we have, and that maybe they have to reserve it to another dispensation, that could be entertained. But for now, I insist there's nothing before this House to allow for these commentaries to be run. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Honorable members, Order 97.1 is very clear. It says, whenever sufficient copies of a paper have been received in the office of the clerk for distribution to members, notice of the presentation of that paper may be placed on the order paper, and when the Speaker announces presentation of papers, the person laying the paper shall rise and bow to the chair, and the clerk shall read the title of the paper, and the paper shall be considered to have been laid on the table. When we got to item 3, one of the issues that was raised was the fact that there are no copies before the office of the clerk, and so there's nothing to be laid. Another member said there are sufficient copies before the office of the clerk, and there's something to be laid. It's when it's laid that it has to be distributed. So I have to cross-check. And in doing so, I allowed members to make contributions. That is why you heard the members talking, and I was just listening, because I was investigating who is speaking the truth. When you preside here, there are a lot of things you do that you don't seated there, you not even know, and you understand what is happening. I cross-check, and the information has come to me that only soft copies sent to a phone. No sufficient copies have been sent to the office of the clerk on this item. So there's actually nothing before us to be laid. That is what I was cross-checking. And so the item 3, A to E, are not available to be laid, and they will not be laid. There's nothing to be laid. So we have laid item 1 and item 2, A, B, C, and that there is sufficient evidence they are available. And that is all we have. So, Mr. Speaker, having heard at all, in allowing the meantime for members to make commentary, I was really concerned about the health of some members because of the passion with which they spoke. But I also acknowledge the fact that sometimes, because of this political season, I'll be allowing you to making your political statements. But Ghanaians are now very wide awake. So whatever statements you make now is not what is going to convince them to vote for you to be MPs or to be presidents. They know what the situation is. So please, let's end here. If there's any more business, let's do it. If not, I'll proceed to adjourn the sitting. We'll be here tomorrow to continue. Yes, well, it was for 2 days, today and tomorrow. Yes, Honorable Dafiamako.
Speaker, I pray you to give me a couple of minutes to make this observation. Mr. Speaker, we all saw and read the content of the letter accompanying the petition praying you for this recall. And which recall?
Honorable Member, we are not going to discuss that.
Mr. Speaker.
It's time either adjourn or there's business before us.
Mr. Speaker, I'm guided.
Honorable members, in the circumstances, I proceed to adjourn sitting to tomorrow at 10 in the forenoon. The House is adjourned.